As soon as you, as a person, decide that you're not gonna lie anymore, and that whatever problem that you have, you're gonna deal with that problem right then where it presents itself, it'll show you a whole new side of you. No people built the pyramid. And if you look around the world, you see certain telltale things that let you know that advanced machinery was in usage. This whole thing where slaves are stronger people is a fallacy. We like to believe that slaves are stronger. Slaves are weaker because they don't eat the right food and they live a terrible life. Even Tesla says that this is where he came to get the information. But if you follow that information pathway, it leads you to this character called Thoth. And the emerald tablets of Thoth are literally mind-changing and mind-blowing, just because you understand when this was written and the terminology being used is far too accurate for now.
The emerald tablets translated in the work are 10, but they were divided into 13 parts for the sake of convenience. They took the 13 tablets and broke it down into 10 because of the way that the verses were written out. It just made it easier to put it into a canonized book. So we're talking about the final 2 tablets of the emerald tablets of Thoth, the plural tablets, because there's 2 versions of the emerald tablets. There's an emerald tablet of Hermes, which is singular 1, which is located in Cambridge at the Cambridge University in the UK. And then the emerald tablets of Thoth, which were written between 36 to 38,000 years ago, are actually in the Vatican archive now. That's where they reside after being rediscovered and brought back to Egypt in the 1920s. Let me read something to you that was written 38,000 years ago. Wise words, although written by my decaying hand. This is Thoth speaking right now. The first intelligencer, the most wisest man to ever walk this planet. The one that helped kickstart civilizations around the entire planet, all over the world. In every region of the planet, he has his influence there. He says, wise words, although written by my decaying hand, remain imperishable through time, imbued with the medicine of immortality by the All-Master. He was taught the secrets of immortality by the All-Master, who actually was his father, Ea Enki, aka Thought Me.
So this dude was probably an alien.
Dude, first of all, there are no probablys.
Yeah.
That's the benefit once you hear it or read it, is the fact that it's given in first person, and that's not possible. The things that are being said are impossible. Enough time has passed, though, that it's not like that. He literally says, hey, there's a spaceship on Earth, and this is where it is. Because if all you care about is information, right? Like, that's what you start to see is when you get to everybody's civilization, Asian, Indian, African, when you get to the crux of their information, nobody's disagreeing with anybody. The greatest trick is to make us believe that people back then were dumber and we're smarter. And that whole thing is a fallacy. But it's worth it for us to believe that.
It's taking me now 4.5 additional years to break these tablets down and to extract the wisdom and the understanding. And what I pulled out of these tablets is mind-boggling and absolutely paradigm shifting. He said, be unseen and be undiscovered by all those who will come and go, wandering the wastelands of life. Wise words, although written by my decaying hand, remain imperishable through time, imbued with the medicine of immortality by the All-Master. Be unseen and undiscovered by all those who will come and go, wandering the wastelands of life. Be hidden until an older heaven births human beings who are worthy of your wisdom. We are the human beings under the new heaven at this moment in time, and we are worthy of the wisdom because we are willing to invest energy and effort into gaining the knowledge. We are living in an era where we can decipher the information. This information has been undecipherable for eons.
The more you know how little you know. The emerald tablets of Thoth are literally mind-blowing. That's why NASA and Space Force are not more forthcoming, because the further you get in space, the more obvious shit is. Like, no people built the pyramids.
No people?
No.
Who built them?
No people built the pyramids. And if you look around the world, you see certain telltale things that let you know that advanced machinery was in usage. Look, this whole thing where slaves are stronger people is a fallacy. We like to believe that slaves are stronger. Slaves are weaker because they don't eat the right food and they live a terrible life. Your slave population is not smarter and better condition unless you're enslaving the Jews.
They stopped thinking that quite a while ago. They think it was actually skilled labor because of the way they were eating. They found what their camps were, where their food was. They ate like very good food. So they think they were actually skilled labor, but also probably forced skilled labor. But that's probably not the people who built it. That's probably the people that were working on it. That's probably the people that worked in the village or in the city.
How many companies have done renovations on the White House? None of them have done enough renovation that they can claim it's their White House. So, yes, thousands of years worth of people were there. But that doesn't have anything to do with the building of it.
Who do you think built it?
Well, understand, we know enough now to understand that this was a complex. This was not...
right.
We've been led to believe that this is how much they worshipped their dead bodies.
Right.
But the evidence doesn't show any of that.
No, it doesn't.
Like when you see inside, when they have those intricate carvings and paintings and stuff in gold and stuff, you have to remember this is in a windowless room, folks. There's no candle soot. There's no... It's clearly a power plant and built specifically for that location on this planet. For
what do you think it was powered
usage.
by?
The hot water springs underneath it.
So it was powered by the hot water springs? And to what end? How do you know all this, first of all? Is this marijuana talk?
I don't think so. This is
where did you read this?
If you follow information about humankind, you find out that in all parts of history, people were coming to this region for their information and their knowledge and their things that were forbidden, and these were not these were the highest of human civilization.
But not even comparable to anyone else.
No.
Nor since.
Nor since. Right.
The Great Pyramid of Giza is insane.
Right. Like
it's insane.
Like even Tesla says that this is where he came to get the information. But if you follow that information pathway, it leads you to this character called Thoth, right? And the emerald tablets of Thoth are literally mind-changing and mind-blowing, just because you understand when this was written and the terminology being used is
when was it written?
Far too accurate for now. So I'm sure that
here it is. Emerald tablet, also known as the Smaragdine tablet, or the Tabula Smaragdina. Boy, I fucked that up. It's
Hermes
compact and
Trismegistus.
A cryptic hermetic text. It was highly regarded by Islamic and European alchemists as the foundation of their art. Though attributed to the legendary Hellenistic figure Hermes Trismegistus. How do you say it, bro?
Trismegistus.
Trismegistus.
Yeah.
The text of the Emerald Tablet first appears in a number of early medieval Arabic sources, the oldest of which dates to the late 8th or early 9th century. It was translated into Latin several times in the 12th and 13th centuries. Numerous interpretations and commentaries followed. So what does it say, though? The Egyptian god Thoth. Okay, it says, beginning in the 2nd century BC onwards, Greek texts attributed to Hermes, a syncretic combination of Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, appeared in Greco-Roman Egypt. Those texts known as the Hermetica are heterogeneous collection of works that in the modern day era are commonly subdivided into two groups. The technical Hermetica, comprising of astrological, medico-botanical, alchemical, and magical writings, and the religio-philosophical Hermetica, comprising of mystical, philosophical writings. Holy shit.
Is this weed talk, Joseph?
No, this is so legit.
So legit, my man.
So this dude was probably an alien.
Dude, first of all, there are no probablys.
Yeah.
That's the benefit once you hear it or read it, is the fact that it's given in first person, and that's not possible. The things that are being said are impossible. Enough time has passed, though, that it's not like that. But
I'm going to read that.
He literally says, hey, there's a spaceship on Earth, and this is where it is. Because if all you care about is information, right? Like, that's what you start to see is when you get to everybody's civilization, Asian, Indian, African, when you get to the crux of their information, nobody's disagreeing with anybody.
Right. If you figured out how the fuck they did it, if there was any logical explanation that people could have done it, I would be on board. I'd be like, well, okay.
But there aren't any people saying that.
Human beings it's possible if you had enough power and you had enough engineering and mathematics that you could figure out how to design and construct the pyramid.
Yes.
But then the logistical problem of getting the stones from hundreds of miles away, massive, several ton, up to 80-ton stones.
Joe.
That's crazy.
If you
500 miles away, some of them.
Even if you could do it, let me ask you this. Would you build it on sand?
I don't think it was originally sand. See, that's the thing.
Right. This was a fertile valley.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Right.
The Nile Valley. That
was
the reason
they had
why they
electric and Wi-Fi, and they had all of that.
They probably did. And that's probably where the Younger Dryas impact theory comes in.
The greatest trick is to make us believe that people back then were dumber and we're smarter.
Right.
And that whole thing is a fallacy.
Yeah, that's definitely not real.
But it's worth it for us to believe that.
I think we are the children of the survivors of some great catastrophe. And I think that's why every single
not everybody
biblical scholar. What?
Not everybody. Some people.
What do you mean?
Are that.
Some people are the survivors?
Right.
Well, I mean, most human beings probably got wiped out in comet storms. And I think we probably got... There's been points in history that they know of where human beings got down to like 7,000 people.
Who's counting them?
I think they use genetics and they backtrace and they try to find individuals that were capable of having X amount of children. I wonder how they do the calculations. It's a good question.
The things in Hollywood
guessing,
and in writing that have attracted our attention worldwide were all based on some truth. So all the stories of hobbits have been successful in all of their genres. Why? Because they existed. Like we now know that there were whole pygmy groups, and that, you know, we understand that that's what the Seven Dwarves was.
Yeah. Like that island of Flores, man, that they found. That they literally call it a hobbit. It was like a 3-foot tall person that was covered in hair, smaller head than us, used tools,
as a preteen, I knew that Atlantis really existed, just because of how it was spoken of offhandedly.
Mm-hmm. Just that it was
in
known
early
to exist.
writings.
Yeah.
Well, not just mentioned, but mentioned offhandedly, like you would a place that's just a landmark.
Right. We landed in New York before we went to Montreal. Yeah.
We were in Austin,
Yeah.
by Dallas.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the guy that thinks that they found the spot in Africa? What is that the ring called? That Jimmy Corsetti is he's on this. This dude is an expert in this shit. And he's an expert in ancient catastrophes and the remnants and the evidence that shows that these civilizations existed and something happened. And he's focused on this one area in Africa that he believes is Atlantis. And he says it has all the hallmark characteristics, and there's all the evidence of massive water erosion surrounding the area. And that at one point in time, it's very likely that this area got hit with a massive flood, and it matches all the characteristics of Atlantis. When you see it, when you see the way the concentric circles of rings, like try explaining this. You're going to see it. And try explaining this through a natural phenomenon that doesn't exist anywhere around it.
Right.
Concentric circles that is near what used to be water, and there's heavy water erosion marks all around it that indicate massive amounts of quick-flowing water in a very short period of time.
Right.
Look
Yeah.
at this.
I forget what it's called, but I know exactly where it is. It's right here. So you can zoom in. It's that right
That's
there.
it. Look at that thing. Bro, are you fucking kidding me?
The reshot structure.
That's it. The reshot structure. I mean, are you fucking kidding me?
I think if you go 3D, you can see the...
Now imagine if that was this massive city of concentric circles and walls and a thriving population, and then it gets hit with this water. You can see the water erosion all over the place. The whole thing looks like it's washed out. See?
Yeah.
It looks like it was washed out because it was.
Right.
That's salt, I believe.
But that's
Yes,
what
there's
makes
salt there. That's the other thing.
between this and the Garden of Eden locations. Like these are two of the great landmarks in human history.
Where's the Garden of Eden?
Well, when you read the stories, right, the thing that strikes you is that it's so specific. Like it says things in talking about the Garden of Eden that, wait a minute, if I can't find what you're talking about, this isn't even real. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like where the Garden of Eden was, there's, I think, 4 rivers that come from it. And then it names 2 of them. Like, I don't want to be specific because at least he's going to bring it up. But it's like the Nile and the Euphrates, right?
Right.
So you know 2 of them. And it's saying, you know, where the 4 meet, this is where it is. And, yeah, my whole life I was like, this is really weird, because at one period of time we're thinking no flood happens. There's so many things that have lined up from these great religious books
Yeah.
where we can see that no, something happened here. Like,
Something happened, and these are stories of people telling stories that have been told to them for about 1,000 years.
but
before
this
anybody
is
wrote it
why,
down.
right?
Yeah,
This is
because
why
something
they were
happened.
told, and that's what
Yeah.
that's the difference between those of us that want to know the world's mysteries and conspiracy theorists. Like, there's
Right.
nothing to a conspiracy theorist because you're not producing what you're using. But these world mysteries, like, that's harder to do. A lie is not something that people are going to repeat for generations on generations. it's being repeated like that because people have reason to believe it to be true. And as you go through history, you see that those are the stories that we still talk about, but they're still valid. Like there were writings that the African Dogon tribe is like they're
from like the Sirius star system.
Like they're saying very specific things, and for hundreds of years we're going, you guys are idiots. You don't know what you're talking about, right? Like somebody will have a fake star story.
Right.
You see?
Right.
And now we get to the point where we can actually see what they were talking about.
What if we find out that we're aliens? That we were just dropped off here a long ass time, and the Adam and Eve story is the story of the place where they created us.
I'm sure we're the only people in the universe that think like that.
You think so? Why do you think that?
No portion of humankind's story differs from that.
It's all creation story.
Like if you go, once you're up there and you're looking down, this shit doesn't look like there is no God. It looks like you're in the middle of somebody's workshop and they just showed you every single way that every star can be made, every single way a planet can be made, every way that a black hole can be, a galaxy, a universe, and then showed you the best.
This pyramid, the Great Pyramid at Giza, is just one of many on the planet, obviously. This one in particular, because we've been able to access it, we've been able to analyze it, we've been able to scan it. We've done CAT scans, muon scans, ground penetrating radar scans. We've been inside of it. We've been on top of it. We've looked at this thing from every angle. So we've got a lot of data, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of data on the Great Pyramid, which is why I decided to really go after the information and see how much data I can extract from this structure and what would it mean. And kind of just trying to figure out, like, what is this pyramid? Because the more I analyzed, the more I realized it was most likely a multifunctional stone computer and a device that potentially generated wireless electricity. We look at Thoth. I always go to the ancients because they're the ones that are leaving these cookie crumbs for us. And so Thoth the Atlantean, in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he says, "Builded I the Great Pyramid, patterned after the pyramid of Earth's force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I builded my knowledge of magic science." Magic science translates into modern terms into advanced technology. So that it might be here when I again return from Amenti. While I sleep in the halls of Amenti, which they found underneath the Great Pyramid, they found all of these hundreds of arched hallways underneath the Great Pyramid, extending out 1 mile underneath the Giza Plateau. This about 3 years ago. My soul roaming free will incarnate, dwell amongst men in this form or another. So he's talking about the fact that he has the capability of transferring his consciousness into other avatar bodies to walk amongst men, but unlike a man. So he's, these beings were so technologically advanced, they can walk among us, looking like us, made from a cloned avatar body, and you'd never know that they'd be standing directly next to you. So here I am at the Great Pyramid at Giza, and I'm inside of the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, analyzing this stone box. This stone box, which they are mainstream is trying to say is a sarcophagus, in my personal opinion, it just can't be a sarcophagus. I've seen sarcophagi. I've been to the valley of the pharaohs, and I've gone inside of tombs, and I've seen all of the sarcophagus in there and looked at them, analyzed them, touched them, and they're massive, super massive. It's really a mystery how they got those things down there, Valley of the Kings. But inside of here, you can see, and I'm 6'4". I'm about 205 pounds, to give you an idea of my height and my weight, standing next to this stone box that's inside the Great Pyramid. And so you get an idea that even with me laying flat on my back inside this box, my knees would be slightly bent, just a little slight bend. I couldn't really fully extend my legs all the way out. Matter of fact, I have a couch in my house that's 90 inches, which is just enough for me to get my feet. I can lay on that. The only couch I can lay on that's, I can lay and extend my legs all the way out. I can't do it in this box. So my couch is longer than this box in terms of my ability to stretch out. Give you an idea of the size of this box. Now, with that being said, knowing that, these, the sarcophagi usually weigh, 2-3 tons or more. And now I'm standing next to a box of stone, which is hollow in the middle and, could weigh maybe just a few hundred pounds, maybe 1,000 at the most. It doesn't make any sense that it would be a burial place. There's nothing there to say that this is a burial place. Now, what's really interesting about this, the dimensions of this box, the actual dimensions perfectly match the dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant. In other words, if you were to take a measuring tape and measure the inside lining of that box, you can actually fit the Ark of the Covenant right inside. And so I started really looking into that and wondering, hypothesizing, could this be where the Ark of the Covenant, or at least one of them, because there were multiple Arks of the Covenant, if you didn't know. Could it be that they left the Ark of the Covenant in this box? I've also been really looking into the fact that Akhenaten may have been the Moses of the Bible. And the reason why he was being ousted from Egypt was not purely because of the way a lot of the biblical stories had gone. I think it was because he was ushering in monotheism into Egypt. He was bringing in the one God system, the one God mindset, and he was getting all that information directly from Amen-Ra, also known as Aten, the sun disk. And Amen-Ra had him going around defacing all the faces of the gods and the Natural and all the glyphs all around Egypt and any other area they ruled, tearing the faces and the ears and the faces and the noses off the statues as far and wide as they can find them and tear them apart, because he said there will be no other God but me. That was the sun god. And so Akhenaten was doing this, and eventually the Egyptians got a little ticked off and they were like, you know what? This guy's erasing all of our history. We got to get rid of him. And I really do believe that he orchestrated a theft of the Ark of the Covenant from this box that I'm standing next to inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, because it was a source of power. And he took that along with his followers of the new monotheistic religion out into the desert with him. And this is most likely why the Pharaoh chased him, because he took the source of the pyramid's power. I think that the Great Pyramid was generating power without the Ark many, many millennia prior. But because the actual pyramid itself, in some weird way and some mechanism had broken, the Ark of the Covenant fulfilled that last piece of the power generating source to send that beam up through the apex, which then would be carried wirelessly by the obelisks. But I think that's what happened. And of course, another thing that they don't really tell you is that the Red Sea is not the sea that was crossed. It was the Sea of Reeds. That's a mistranslation in the modern day Bible, which is a much smaller, much easier sea to cross. But I really do believe that's what that box is for, which is why I really want to show it. Now, another thing about this box, it's in the king's chamber, which is right above the grand gallery. So to get to this king's chamber, you have to kind of, well, I have to really stoop low and kind of crawl up this, probably like a 60-degree angle gallery to get up into the king's chamber. If you're not in good shape, it could be a little bit of work to get up there. But what's interesting is the location of the actual, the degrees of the actual grand gallery itself leading up are 29.9792458 degrees north. Now, what's interesting is the speed of light in meters per second is 299,792,458 meters per second. So you see the numbers match. So the speed of light in a vacuum in meters per second perfectly match the the actual location of the Grand Gallery. Now that's pretty interesting. And you're saying, people say, well, no, it can't be. It's just a coincidence because meters, the metric system didn't exist. Not actually. So we know this is the speed of light in the vacuum, right? And this is the Grand Gallery I'm looking at right here on the right-hand side. give you a kind of a bird's eye view of what it looks like to get up into the king's chamber and get back down to the level that can even take you further down into the queen's chamber, which is below, okay? But let's analyze this. Well, I discovered that the proto-cuneiform tablets and mathematics system that was discovered, believe it or not, in Mesoamerica, of all places. What are Sumerian proto-cuneiform writings found in Mesoamerica? But they found them. And guess what? They actually depict a proto-metric system, which would date back 8,000 to 10,000 years. So we're talking about a proto-cuneiform mathematical system that's also proto-metric. So the metric system definitely was not just something that we recently discovered or created. That's actually just a rediscovery of something that already existed. We always come back to the same old story. A lot of the stuff that we are learning now and inventing today, we're just rediscovering things that already existed. We may have a different twist on it or a different take on it. We may tweak it here or tweak it there, but overall, in my personal opinion, after now researching these topics and going through over 1,000 cylinder scrolls, scriptures, cuneiform tablets, papyruses, you name it, books, to me, as far as I can see now, the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, all these ancient texts, the Code of Hammurabi, we're talking about a very sophisticated ancient culture that visited this planet and really endowed mankind with a lot of the things that we are just now rediscovering. So if anybody ever says, if you ever tell anybody, can you believe that the speed of light is the same degrees as the Grand Gallery and the Great Pyramid, and they go, nah, the metric system didn't exist. Well, actually, no. Now you have the power and the knowledge to tell them, actually it did. The metric system existed long time ago. So one of the most amazing anomalies is right here on Earth, the embedded constants in the Great Pyramid. This is what I want to share with you guys today, okay? The tropical year or the calendar year can actually be calculated from the structure itself. So you take the length of a base side, which is 9,131 pyramid inches, measured at the mean socket level, or 365.24 pyramid cubits, which is the number of the days in the year, okay? They really encoded everything about our cycles, our days, our months, our years, directly into the actual building of the structure itself. The perimeter of the base divided by 100 equals 365.24, the number of days in a year. It's really incredible for them to have that advanced foreknowledge to construct something that had to be built at speed, that had to be built with these megalithic blocks, and at the same time still the agenda initially going in. This takes foreplanning. You have to plan to do these kind of things. You can't go, while we started building, let's add the days of the year to this structure. So before the structure was even started on construction, before the first hole was dug, before the first brick was created or quarried, all the things that they wanted to endow into the structure were pre-thought. And then from there, the master architect had to find a way to take all this data and put it all into the structure in terms of the architectural plans before it was actually built. That's incredible. Now, the tropical year can be calculated. The length of the antechamber used as a diameter of a circle produces a circumference of 365.242, accurate to within 6 digits of the tropical year. The tropical year can also be calculated by the ratio of the length of the Grand Gallery to the solid diagonal of the King's Chamber times 100 equals the number of days in a tropical year. Accurate to within 8 digits. Again, in the sidereal year, the length of the antechamber of the King's Chamber times pi equals the length of a sidereal year. Accurate again to within only 8 digits. This takes really advanced foreknowledge. It takes at first, because the reason why is because you need to know these statistics. You need to know the calculations of these years and these months and that you want to put into the structure. So you have to have the foreknowledge of that. And then you have to say, okay, now let's make this list of all the things we want to add into the structure. We want to encode the structure with this information for somebody to discover it.
because there's no other real reason to put it there other than for it to be a beacon for us right now in this current era. You can also calculate the mean distance to the sun by taking half of the length of the diagonal of the base times 10 to the 6th power equals the average distance to the sun. Now, let me ask you a question. Okay. How did they know the distance to the sun? That would be 1 AU, 1 astronomical unit. The distance from the Earth to the sun is 1 AU in astrophysics. How did they know this? How in the world did they get this information? I mean, you know, I can calculate the circumference of the Earth or the curvature of the Earth with 2 sticks. That's pretty easy to do. I can take a stick and put it in the ground here, 3-foot stick here. I can have my friend go 3 miles away, put a stick in the ground at the same time of day, and I can call my friend and say, hey, measure the angle of the shadow, and I'm going to measure the angle of my shadow right now. And I could take the angle of those shadows, and I can calculate the actual spherical the size of the Earth to within maybe just a few inches or so. Okay, not too hard to do. But you can't just look at the sun and go, oh, it's going to be X amount of distance away from the Earth. You have to have advanced knowledge. You would have had to actually known the distance from the Earth to the sun prior to building the structure. And how did they get that information? That's the big question mark. The mean distance to the sun, the height of the pyramid times 10 to the 9th power represents the mean radius of the Earth's orbit around the sun, or astronomical unit, AU. So we can also calculate the actual orbit of the Earth around the sun via the Great Pyramid measurements. The mean distance to the moon can be calculated. The length of the Jubilee passage times 7 to the 10th to the 7th is the mean distance to the moon. And again, that's calculating a distance of 238,865 miles. Something you can't just do with the naked eye. This means you had a sophisticated piece of technology. They was able to measure the distance from the Earth to the moon, or maybe if you came in from the outside, from the moon to the Earth, but you would actually need to know this information, which means you would need technology to know this information, or somebody would need to bring this knowledge to you from somewhere else, somebody who had the technology, who had the means to actually do it. You can calculate the sun's radius from the Great Pyramid. Twice the perimeter of the bottom of the granite coffer times 10 to the 8th is the sun's mean radius. Okay, so that's incredible. 10 to the 8th equals 427,316 miles. So we know that the radius of the sun is 427,316 miles. And how do we know that? Because it's encoded into the Great Pyramid. But how do we know it before the pyramid? Because we have technology. We have satellites in space. We have the capability of scanning this, taking a look at the sun, scanning it with our digital equipment, and then having a computer. We have the luxury of having a computer calculate the radius. But how did they do that in ancient times? How in the world did they do it? Now, in my opinion, this Great Pyramid wasn't built 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15,000 years ago. In my opinion, it was built between 36,000 to 45,000 years ago. Two processional periods back, 2 full processional periods is about the time that I personally estimate, my personal estimation, that the Great Pyramid was built. And if I'm right, we're talking about pre-dynastic era. We're talking about the land of Chem, long before this structure resided in a place now called Egypt. Back then it was called the land of Chem, which is where you get the word chemistry and alchemy from. All right. You can also calculate Earth's polar radius. That's calculating the radius going this way from top to the bottom, the polar radius. Something we couldn't do really until not too long ago, actually. But the sacred cubit times 10 to the 7 equals the polar radius of the Earth, which is the distance from the North Pole to Earth's center. 25 pyramid inches times 10 to the 7. We're talking about 3,950 miles we're calculating, and we're talking about doing that all based off of the sacred cubit. Again, a really advanced foreknowledge has to be established to be able to do these calculations. In Earth's polar radius, the pyramid embodies a scale ratio of 1 to 43,200 of the Earth's size. So the pyramid itself is actually a scaled down version of the planet Earth. If you were to draw a sphere around the actual pyramid, you have a scale of 1 by 43,200 of the actual Earth size. Again, incredible. So again, you have to know the exact size of the Earth, and then you have to make your scale 1 by 43,000. I mean, that's just incredible. Incredible mathematics, incredible knowledge, which is a distance of 3,938.68 miles, which is the polar radius of the Earth to within 11 miles.